And Razak Musbah, can you take us through that breaking news?
So what we have is that, and our producer will just project it so all of you will see on the studio. What we understand is that Great Olympics has sued Accra to Folk at the Accra High Court over the transfer of Gladson AWAKO. And we have the document, we have received the document, the what do you call it, the writ of summons that what was the name, Great Olympics, filed at the court, and they're just going to so that people know that we are not just making things up. We're going to show you the document itself, and we just have to give credit to Asempa so that so the producer will just extract it from the WhatsApp. So that's it. So that's the writ of summons, and you could see. I'm sure if you're at home you cannot see, but you can see that Accra Great Olympics Football Club is the plaintiff, and Accra Heart of Folk Sporting Club is the defendant. And you are hereby commanded that within 8 days after service of this writ on your inclusive of the days of service, you do blah blah blah, etc. So what we understand is that Great Olympics has sued Accra Heart of Folk over the what's his name,
Gladson
AWAKO's issue. And this is something that has been in conversation. This is something that has never left the radar and the conversation in town, and it is interesting. It is interesting, but the point is that a lot of people didn't expect that it would get to this point where Great Olympics will actually take this matter to the court for it to be settled, because we understand that there was some discussion to try and resolve this issue and ensure that this issue is amicably resolved. But clearly what we are seeing now is that Accra Great Olympics are not going to countenance. They are not going to sit back and see things done in an haphazard manner. They are going to take on Accra Heart of Folk. And for Accra Heart of Folk themselves, this is going to be a big blow. This is going to be a big blow for them, because they are already in quite, a bit of crisis, if you want to call it. They are already in a bit of crisis, if you want to call it. And with this thing coming on their head, it's definitely going to shake the management of Accra to Folk a bit. Absolutely. Because already they've gone through a very disgraceful, a very embarrassing, a very, difficult CAF Champions League and difficult CAF Confederations Cup. In the league itself, they are not really doing well. They are lying bottom of the table, and this also comes to hit them. Then it's going to be a very, very, very difficult one. I'm sure in the coming days there's going to be a lot of talk about this. But when you look at the writ of summons and the details of it, really, you will see what Great Olympics is demanding and the case they are making. And substantially, the case they are making is that they sold Gladson AWAKO to Accra to Folk for 100,000 Ghana cedis. All right, and what we understand is that Accra to Folk did make part payment of 50,000 Ghana cedis, and Accra to Folk had to make a certain payment of 50,000 Ghana cedis before the 2nd of October. Before the 2nd of October, Accra to Folk needed to make a payment of 50,000 Ghana cedis before the 2nd of October. That will make the full payment of 100,000 Ghana cedis. But what we understand is that Accra to Folk failed to make that payment before before the 2nd of October. And according to Great Olympics, several efforts to try and get Accra to Folk to make this payment has proven futile.
I'm sure they set a deadline. I'm sure they set a deadline for Accra Heart of Folk to make payments.
Yeah.
And the deadline, passed, and Accra Heart of Folk failed to make payment. And so Olympics were demanding that they bring Gladson AWAKO back, because that was the agreement that at this point in time, or for this duration of time, if you don't make that payment, you're going to get back our player. And up to now, Gladson AWAKO is not with Accra Great Olympics, and he's with Heart of Folk.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why they're demanding for their player.
Exactly. And
now that the days has gone by and still Accra Folk is not responding, that is the reason why they've sued Accra Heart of Folk.
Yeah, because if they can't forcibly go and take Gladson AWAKO from Accra Heart of Folk. They can't do that forcibly. All right, they can't do that forcibly. So they've decided to resort to the court of law to ensure that they get their player back. Because indeed we heard on radio where the CEO of Great Olympics made the point that, look, Gladson AWAKO is now their player, and whether they like it or not, Gladson AWAKO must return to Great Olympics. And Gladson AWAKO was in a fix as to which team he really belongs to. Accra folk insists Gladson AWAKO is their player. Olympics also insists that, Gladson AWAKO is their player. And Gladson AWAKO was in a fix. And eventually, Gladson AWAKO went to Accra folk. All right? Then Great Olympics said no. Accra folk forfeited the contract which they signed. The contract was clear, and you could see, I'm sure those are at home will not be able to read it very clearly, but you could see the argument that Great Olympics is making. And if you look at the document that we have projected to you right now, of course you'll not be able to read it at home, so let me just read it to you. That plaintiff avers that, and plaintiff here is Great Olympics. Plaintiff avers that following discussions between the plaintiff and the defendant, which in this case is Accra folk, an agreement dated 12th August 2021 was entered into between the parties on the following key terms. So these were the key terms, all right? These were the key terms. The party, that player, Gladson AWAKO, will be transferred from the plaintiff to the defendant for a consideration of 100,000 Ghana cedis. 100,000 Ghana cedis. That was the agreement, that Gladson AWAKO will move for Great Olympics to Accra for 100,000 Ghana cedis. Now, the second agreement was that of the consideration, an amount of 50,000 Ghana cedis will be paid by the defendant to the plaintiff upon execution of the agreement, i.e., on or before the 12th of August 2021. So, first tranche of the money, which is 50,000 Ghana cedis, was to be paid on 12th of August. All right. Then the second amount, that the remainder of the consideration shall be paid to the plaintiff on or before the 12th of October 2021. The second tranche of the money, which is 50,000 Ghana cedis, was supposed to be paid on or before 2nd of October. That was the agreement. And this was a very important part of the agreement, and based upon which Great Olympics is going to the court. The third agreement, and this is what it reads. It says that should the defendant, in this case Accra folk, fail to make the second payment on or before the stipulated date, the contract shall be terminated. Player Gladson AWAKO shall remain a player of the plaintiff, and any monies paid shall be forfeited.
Wow.
This was the third part of the agreement.
Wow.
The third part of the agreement was the fact that if Accra folk does not pay the second tranche of the money, the 50,000 on the 2nd of October, on or before they failed. The second part of the agreement states that if Accra folk does not pay the remainder of the money, then the contract will stand terminated. Not only will the contract stand terminated, player Gladson AWAKO will remain a player of Great Olympics, and any other, not Artefok, and any other money that has been paid before will stand forfeited.
Wow.
So that's
no. But if Accra folk knew that they've signed this contract, why didn't they go back to amend the contract, to sit with Great Olympics to adjust the contract, and they waited till the time passed? Now Great Olympics have gone to sue them. So what next from Accra? Do you think that Accra really did a good job? However, so let's put the WhatsApp number so that we can also get the views from the thought and views of our viewers to tell us what they also think about this matter. So the WhatsApp number should be displayed: 024-233-6241, 024-233-6241.
Yeah, so I mean, the point is that, and this is what a lot of people are making. That's the point a lot of people. Who entered into this agreement? Who went into this agreement with Great Olympics? That, for instance, at least it's understandable that when you say that, when
I thought when this issue came, they said it was Vincent Odote who
yes,
went for this deal.
Fair enough. We can say that it is Vincent Odote, but the point is that because we've not seen the agreement, and to see that indeed his signature is what is an agreement, then maybe we will try to be very cautious in saying
And
indeed
say
he's the one.
It's Hartefok.
Yes.
The entirety of Hartefok management.
Exactly.
That signed the contract.
Exactly. And the point is that whoever signed it for Hartefok did so on behalf of the entirety of Hartefok.
Absolutely.
So, but the point is that, Derek, the point is this: there are several issues that can be raised from this. All right. Number one, Gladson Awako cost Hearts of Oak 100,000 Ghana cedis. The question is it indeed the case that Accra Hearts of Oak does not have 100,000 Ghana cedis to pay off? Is it indeed the case that Accra Hearts of Oak at this moment does not have 100,000 as at 12th August? Did not have 100,000 Ghana cedis to give to Great Olympics and say we are buying Awako. Is it really the case? Number two, the agreement as far as the contract was concerned is that 12 on or before 12 August you pay 50%. And they did that. We understand they paid the 50,000. And they were supposed to pay the next 50,000 on or before 12th of October. And the point is that they forfeited. They could not fulfill it. For almost a month, we understand that Accra Hearts of Oak had not paid the 50,000 Ghana cedis. And we understand that Great Olympics indeed contacted Accra Hearts of Oak about the said money, and Accra Hearts of Oak really did not give any substantial reason for why they've not fulfilled that money. Now, if the point is that Accra Hearts of Oak forgot, then we begin to ask the question, who is in charge of the administrative affairs at Accra Hearts of Oak?
But how can they forget?
So that's the point, because if you do not forget...
You're in a contract with a different club, the same Premier League club, and the player in question is a huge player. It's a player who had made a mark last season for Great Olympics, arguably one of the best players in the league last season. How can you forget that we knew that Gladson Awako's news has been popping up every now and then, negative reasons. How could you just forget about Gladson Awako? How could you just forget that we didn't pay the money, the rest of the remainder of the money to go to the Olympics to keep Gladson Awako? I mean, if you say they've forgotten, I don't think. I mean, that's true.
The point is that if you did not, because it's two things. Number one, if they did not forget that they had a certain, contractual agreement to satisfy. Which is the contractual agreement between Great Olympics, which they had to pay 50,000 Ghana cedis. The remainder of Gladson Awako's money, and I'm sure they're going to show the picture of the player we are talking about, top player of top quality. Yeah. All right. Now it's two things. It's either Accra Hearts of Oak forgot, all right, to pay the money on or before 2nd October, and the point is that if they indeed forgot, do they not have an accountant? Did they not have an administrator? Did they not have somebody who indeed, because of course they have players on contract. And if you have players on contract, you know the players you have to pay. You know that you have to pay light bills. You know you have to pay this. An accountant ensures that money are released for all other these things. Every, fulfillment, obligatory fulfillment that you have to make. Of course, you have people who have taken notice of these things and ensure that when the time is due, they make those fulfillments. So the point is that if they indeed forgot, then it begs the question, did they not have an accountant?
But they have a secretariat.
Exactly. Do they not have, because definitely they do.
So you have it, and so who are those occupying that secretariat there? Who are those people? Either they don't even go to work, or they don't know what is happening. They didn't even know that Accra Hearts of Oak went into a deal with Great Olympics, or they didn't know that it was Gladson Awako they were going to get. I mean, what's all this?
So that's the argument. If indeed they forgot, if they come to say they forgot, or they go to court and say they forgot, I'm sure that's the argument that the Great Olympics lawyers should be raising.
The WhatsApp number, please. The WhatsApp number, so that we can, try to speak to our viewers as well.
Yeah, I mean, so if Accra Hearts of Oak made the argument that they forgot, that's obviously will be the argument the Great Olympics will raise. That don't you have accountant? You pay your player's salary, you pay your electricity bills. Why is it that when it came to us, you tell us you forgot to make our fulfillment? So that argument, obviously, if they raise it, will not sell. The other argument will be that maybe Accra Hearts of Oak did not have 50,000 Ghana cedis as at 2nd October 2021. And the question is,
even before, because 2nd October
on or before
was the deadline.
Yes.
So even before, if you don't have it, what you needed to do was to go back to Great Olympics to amend the contract, to adjust the contract that they should take it a bit further.
Yeah, I mean, it's that you can establish some gentleman agreement.
Absolutely.
Accra Great Olympics and Accra Hearts of Oak, these are Accra people, these are Accra clubs. All right, regardless of the rivalry that exists between them, the management of both clubs understand each other. You can pick a phone. Vincent Odutoye can pick a phone, or even Togo can pick a phone and tell, "Oh, look, give us some time to make the payment." You understand? And to be sorted out. But the point is that if that did not happen, then is it the case that Accra Hearts of Oak did not have 50,000 Ghana cedis?
That is the player in question on your screen, Gladson Awako.
All right, is it the case that Accra Folk did not have 50,000. Derek, Accra Folk won the league. They got 250,000 Ghana cedis. They won the FA Cup. We understand they won. They got about 80,000 Ghana cedis. Cumulatively, that's around 330,000 Ghana cedis they have in their coffers.
But they spent more on their travels in African competitions, haven't they?
Of course, and even for that, remember the president promised them 1 million Ghana cedis for the African.
He gave it to them, didn't he?
For the African, we don't know whether they've gotten the cash yet, but if the president promised, then obviously it will be delivered. So the point is that if the argument is they forgot, that argument will not wash. If the argument is they don't have money, they do not have 50,000 Ghana cedis, then we really want to ask the question: is Accra Folk going to tell us that Togbe, the paramount chief of a great, what do you call it, a tribe, a great ethnic group in the Volta region, does not have 50,000 Ghana cedis. Accra Folk does not have 50. Even Vincent Odote can put his hand into his pocket and get 50,000 Ghana cedis. Is it that the case? That because this is not an issue that should even result in court processes. Over 50,000 Ghana cedis, Derek. 50,000 Ghana cedis. Accra Folk does not have 50,000 Ghana cedis. Look at this flight Accra Folk took from here to Algeria. If you look at the pricing, it will be almost 50,000 Ghana cedis. So is it really the case that Accra Folk did not have 50,000 Ghana cedis? I think that is not the case. I think
they were prioritizing the CAF competition than Glaston AWAKO, isn't it?
Oh, meaning they were prioritizing
because there's a player who was not registered for the competition, and so they are prioritizing that. And they went there too. We saw what happened.
But you entered into an agreement with a serious club like Great Olympics. And look, and one thing that has not helped in all of this issue is the commentary by both leaders of both clubs. I heard Vincent Odote speaking on one of the radio stations, and he was calling the Great Olympics as a club that is not serious. That the manner in which they are handling the issue, they don't look serious. They don't look like a serious club, and that's not how serious people manage, clubs. And I'm sure that is what even peeved Oluboy Commodore to take the matter to court. And the point is that when such an issue come up, and even if Oluboy Commodore also went on radio and also ranted and said, look, Accra Folk has not made the payment and the contract is clear. If you don't make the payment, then the previous money you have paid, you will forfeit it, and the player also, you will forfeit the player. That's what Oluboy Commodore, he only stated the court, the agreement. The Odote also went on radio and he blasted Great Olympics. And at the heart of all of this issue is communication. The fact that maybe Accra Folk management were feeling so arrogant to engage Great Olympics.
Why would they feel arrogant?
Maybe
because they went to them asking for the player. They paid half of the money. So why would they feel so arrogant to go back there? And
maybe because of the way and manner in which Great Olympics took up the issue. Because ordinarily, Accra Folk were making the point that, look, maybe we forfeited a certain date to make the payment. But the proper thing to do is to engage us, not to go and radio. And Great Olympics were also making the point is that you knew you forfeited, and the proper thing to do is to call us. Don't pretend as though you don't have any. When sometimes people behave like that. When they owe you, they behave like you've forgotten that you owe them. And that's how it seems Accra Folk were behaving. With your big cat, now I say, why say refi. And Oluboy Commodore also went on radio and said, you people, you owe us. And you pretend as if you don't owe us. And you forfeited the date, and because you forfeited the date, we are going to activate the contract we signed. And when they did that, then Accra Folk got peeved. And I'm sure the comment that Great Olympics manager, CEO made on radio, Accra Folk felt offended and felt that for a big club as they are, such comments should not be associated with them. It denigrates them. And I'm sure that is why Accra Folk were on their high heels and they decided not to go and engage, what do you call it? Accra Great Olympics, because you could just go and engage them, pick a phone call, have a meeting at Kempinski, some dinner. These are two Ghan people, get some kenke and fish, sit over it, eat. When you're done, have a discussion about the contract. If you don't have the money in the meantime, what do you do? Oh, after the CAF Confederation Cup, we are expecting money here, so you give us some time. Maybe by December we'll make the payment.
Absolutely.
But clearly,
that should be ideal.
Yeah, because clearly the reason why Great Olympics has decided to take this matter to court is because Accra Folk are unwilling to engage them. All right. It's because Accra Folk are willing to engage them. Maybe it might also be that Accra Folk have shown interest to engage Great Olympics, but Great Olympics are insisting that it is no longer the money we want, it's the player we want.
Oh, okay.
Because remember the comments by the coach of Great Olympics. You remember his comment?
Yeah.
That, Gladson Awako says he's not happy at Accra to Folk. He wants to come back. So it is clear that the agenda of Great Olympics now is to have Gladson Awako back.
But obviously, Gladson is also not playing. He could only play in January, where the transfer window reopened. And so the player is not playing. And when he comes under us, he will do better. He can do better because he's been doing better for our club. And even now that he's not even there, they're still doing better. So how much more Gladson Awako is even returning back to the club? And now that they know that they signed a contract that if after that set date, Hartlepool don't pay that remainder of the money, we will have a player. We'll keep that money.
We'll keep their money. The money that they paid already, we'll keep it.
We'll keep it.
So it's clear that as at now, because I'm sure that, look, with this matter popping up, there are a lot of big Accra to Folk fans, big men in town who are Accra to Folk fans, who can call Accra to Folk. How much do you owe Great Olympics? Come for the money, come for a check. All right? Even our chairman Ruben here is a staunch Accra to Folk fan.
He can take,
he can take some 20% of the money. A few others can take 5% and it's sorted out. But it is clear that what the agenda of Great Olympics now is not the money. The agenda is to have the player back.
And keep the money.
Yes. To have the player back, because right now, even if Accra to Folk say, look, we are giving you 500,000 Ghana, I'm sure Great Olympics will say, no, we want Awako back. And if you look at the contract, the details of the contract, they have a case. And I don't know how the court is going to say, well, guys, look, although you signed the contract, just let them pay the money. No, the contract is clear if you forfeit it.
And in courts, I mean, they don't have to, they don't adjust.
They don't compromise.
They don't compromise, absolutely. They don't adjust anything.
Yeah.
The law says this, and we go by it.
Yes,
as simple as that. If they're found guilty, Great Olympics will take Gladson Awako and keep the 50,000.
Exactly, and I think that is. And Great Olympics have a case. Accra the Folk know Great Olympics have a case. All right, and right now,
so Accra the Folk didn't foresee Great Olympics taking them to court.
Absolutely, they did not, especially after they were trashed by 4-0, crashed out of the CAF Confederations Cup, because already they are coming up and they're going to arrive on Friday all the way from Algeria. I'm sure by now they are somewhere in Tunisia or somewhere in Abu Dhabi and trying to do their transit. And this news will hit them big time, and I'm sure you can imagine what will be going through the minds of the players, what will be going through the minds of the management team, because already we understand that there is a crisis meeting that is set to be held when the team returns, so that they can do a proper evaluation and see where the problems are. And now Accra to Folk have to deal with this issue. But look, what some Accra to Folk fans are even calling for is that Gladson Awako is becoming an albatross, and he ought to be offloaded from the team. There are some Accra to Folk fans who are saying that
psychologically, would you say it's the reason why the players are not really performing?
But why should it be the reason? Because Gladson Awako doesn't come anywhere near to the team. He doesn't train with the team. So why do you think that would be the reason why the team is not performing?
Because perhaps when they announced that he was going to sign for them, they were happy until there were some other issues, other matters that popped up, and then things went wrong for.
But maybe you can talk about the coach. That maybe the coach, in his preseason, possibly had plans in terms of where he wants to use Gladson Awako, and when all of these issues happened, then his plans changed, and he's now just trying to readjust and find some system that can work without Gladson Awako, and all of that. But profoundly, what some Accra to Folk fans are saying is that, look, we are tired of Gladson Awako. Accra to Folk, Togbe should let Gladson Awako go. It's as simple as that. Let them take the 50,000. Let them take Gladson Awako, because Gladson Awako is becoming an albatross on the team. He's becoming too much of a load and a burden on the team, and they should let him go.